So there is a program happening in the lecture hall, so I apologize. That's why I'm in the courtyard today. But inshallah, today we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about and explaining arrogance, how it manifests in different groups of people, how it manifests in individuals, and how Imam Ghazali kind of treats it and deals with it. So the first, he says that a person becomes arrogant when he magnifies himself, and he only magnifies himself when he believes he possesses some quality of perfection. And this type of perfection can go back and refer back to one of two things. Either it can be worldly, or it can be religious. So in religious, he starts with them, as is the typical way and path of Imam Ghazali, where he complains a lot about the clergy, and then he discusses worldly reasons on why a person would be arrogant. So for a religious, he breaks it down into two. He says either it's going to be because of a person's knowledge, or he says it's going to be because of a person's actions. In terms of worldliness, you talk about lineage, beauty, strength, wealth, and many supporters, meaning that you're very popular, right? So that's another way for a person to become very arrogant. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. So the first, he says, how quickly arrogance finds its way to scholars. The Prophet ﷺ said, the scourge of knowledge is pride. Where does this lead to a person? So if a person, they spend their life seeking knowledge, they spend their life learning, why is this person the first one who Imam Ghazali mentions, the first one who he talks about? Right, so number one, he's speaking to himself, right? Considering this is somebody who spent their life, who's dedicated themselves and kind of sacrificed seeking knowledge, that he's kind of addressing himself and dealing with himself first. What else? Okay, so he's saying that you're saying that most scholars fall into this? They're most apt to fall into it. Okay. They're most likely to fall into it. Why them? You would imagine that this group of people are the one that studies it and spends the most time learning about this. Why would they be the first to fall into it? I would imagine somebody who's unaware, right? These clothes. Sure. I'm saying, listen, I can understand why. When you give a talk and you have like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people looking at you, 100 people looking at you, what happens? Right, you become a focal point, and all of a sudden, like your heart starts whispering to you, right? You start hearing whispers of the shaitan. It becomes very intoxicating. But aren't these the same people that study this stuff? Right? Like, so why? What happened? Like I get what you're saying. I can understand the draw. I can understand like why it's easy to fall into it, but why aren't these people the one? Shouldn't they be more protected? Shouldn't they have like more guardrails? I'm sorry? Okay, the nature is definitely a part of it, but we fight our nature to not fall into sin, right? And we would hope that out of all of the people in the world, that people who are learned are less likely to fall into sin. Why? Yes. Okay. So maybe there's a desensitization. That's possible. I think it's something else. I think it's an overconfidence. Right? Because we surround ourselves like in the space with so much scripture, we feel what? We feel guarded. We feel like not just guarded, I would take it a step so far, like even immune. Right? It's like, no, this isn't something that could actually come to me. Why? Because I'm protected by knowledge. Right? This knowledge should protect me, and it should prevent me from falling into this. Oh, why do I know so? Like I know so much about staying away from arrogance. I've read all these books on arrogance. I've read all these ayat and all these ahadith and all these statements from different scholars. I've read books on it. Yes or no? So you develop this false confidence that you actually know how to deal with it. An example of this: are there financial advisors who lose all their money? I'm sorry? Doctors who have poor health. Doctors who have poor health, right? They don't take care of themselves. Why? Because the knowledge, it makes them feel immune from all these things, right? And it creates this false protection for the individual and for the person. It's the same thing with the clergy. You would think that this is the one thing that they would be able to, that would protect them. But the reality is like, unless you're actively engaged, it's not something that's going to protect you. It actually becomes easier to fall into because you think you're guarded when you're actually not. So he talks about the scholar here, and he says, like, so as a scholar, as they seek knowledge, and you know, all of us are learning, and all of us are at different stages. When we first start learning, how do we start feeling about the knowledge that we have? Okay, so how is it maybe initially? It can be overwhelming, like when you first start getting into it. But now, then you start sitting in the class, you feel like you start grasping certain concepts. How do you now feel about yourself? You start feeling confident. Now, is that confidence justified? Not at all. I think a person has every right to feel confident in their ability to continue, but I don't think they should be confident with the information that they have. Right? That takes a lot more time, and even you don't get up to a point where you should be fully confident in the things that you have. So he says that what happens is that as this person surrounds themselves with knowledge, they're now actually surrounding themselves with beauty and perfection. Right? Because what is knowledge? It's both beautiful and it is perfect. And when you surround yourself with things that are beautiful, and you surround yourself with perfection, you start feeling protected. Right? Because it's all you see. Like you've created this walled garden around yourself, and you think that you're safe. And he says this starts having an effect on the individual. Right? Not the knowledge now. We're not talking about the knowledge. It's the idea of that knowledge and understanding the beauty and the perfection behind it. This now actually starts having an effect on the individual. And subhanAllah, it's amazing what he says. He says now this translates into how he deals and how he looks at people. And all of a sudden, because what has he done? Remember what we talked about with arrogance? The moment that you separate yourself from people, you have now entered a door of arrogance. And it could be worse, it could be less, whatever the case might be. But the moment that you create this rank, you now have these two different categories of people. And this person who surround themselves with perfection and surround themselves with beauty, how do they view people? As not beautiful and not perfect. Less than. And now, this person, he has some knowledge. Oops. The way people deal with him is going to be different too. So when a person is learning and a person teaches, how do people interact with that individual? Do they treat him special? 100%. Right? They start saving parking spaces for him. Right? They bring him food. They'll make sure that he always has something to eat. Right? They'll take him out to eat. Right? They'll do a lot of these things for that person. And eventually, what happens to that person's heart? Starts expecting it. It's so scary, dude. Like, it's so terrifying. That he starts becoming accustomed to this behavior to the point where now he starts expecting it. And Imam Ghazali, he builds that correlation. He's like, a person can start gaining so much knowledge, they start thinking so highly of themselves, that anytime someone does something for them, they're like, how do they justify it? They're like, no, I deserve it. Right? I'm deserving of this. And it becomes very easy to keep raising those expectations from others. That's why it's so easy to fall into. And that's why it's something that's so dangerous. And that's why Imam Ghazali is spending time. That's why he discusses it and he talks about it. Because of how easy it is to fall into it. Because for many scholars, many of them are not wealthy. Many of them don't necessarily come from prestigious families. So what is the one thing that they actually can take pride in? Right, their knowledge. Right, they spent all this time, they spent all this effort, they worked so hard, they got all this knowledge, and now they feel like they actually have something to take pride in. And because they never had anything to take pride in before, what happens? Right, it goes to their head. Right, immediately goes to their head. They start thinking very different of themselves, start thinking very highly of themselves. If you give a rich person a lot of money, is that necessarily really going to change his attitude? Not really, right? It's something that he's used to. Or if a person has like 5 million followers on YouTube and 100,000 people more subscribe, does he care? Not really, right? It's like, it doesn't make that much of a difference. Like, you've already reached this peak of wealth. You've already reached this height of status and adoration that certain things don't really have an effect on you. Okay, what if you never experience those things? And all of a sudden now, you start experiencing them. It can become a real test. And because he feels now that he's been lifted, right? Like he thinks like he's in a higher plane, he's operating at a higher plateau, it's easier to start looking down on others, right? Because you feel you're on a pedestal. And you feel that, oh, my knowledge has brought me this status. And not just that, what kind of fuels that? What do the verses say about what do the verses say about ulul albab? What does it say about the people of remembrance? What does it say about the people who ponder? What does it say about the people who spend? How does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about that? He's like, yeah, these are some of my worshippers, are good people. He holds them in high status and high esteem. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, "Man yaltamisu fihi ilman sahhala Allahu tariqan ila al-jannah." That the one who seeks knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make his path to paradise easy. And he goes on to say that even the fish in the ocean, and the whales, and the birds, and all creation, they make dua for this person. So if a person fools himself into thinking that he's from those people, not only does he feel praised by the people around them, he thinks that he has a unique position with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's amazing how the shaitan can just whisper to an individual in different ways. So he gives an example of what that arrogance actually looks like. If somebody greets him, he'll respond, right? And he'll be happy when he responds. But if a person doesn't greet him, he gets upset and he gets angry. Why? Right? He starts expecting it. He thinks he's deserving of it. Like, no, you're supposed to address me. You're supposed to start the salam. You're supposed to talk to me. And this is why it's such an issue. This is why it's such a problem. And I know we mentioned this time and time again, but having expectations from others, it just says about ourselves that we're deserving. And we're not. We're absolutely not deserving. In the moment that we think we are, we've fallen into Shaitan's trap. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. The other thing he mentions, which is really interesting, is nothing is ever reciprocated. You'll visit him, you'll spend time with him, you'll spend on him, you'll bring him food. He'll never bring you food, he'll never spend time deserving and you are not. Like, this is the danger of arrogance. And the thing is, like, we're just talking about scholars right now. Like, we're actually talking about people who have the appearance of religiosity, the people who look like they're the ones who are practicing, the ones who look like, they have the deen kind of figured out. And one of the reasons he also starts with this chapter, right, in the discussion of the scholars, is not just to amend and fix the scholars, but who else is reading this? Who else is engaging? Non-scholars. So what kind of perspective does this give them? Or it doesn't? I think we all have, as human beings, it's very easy for us to kind of incline towards celebrity worship. Right? Like, we want that. We want that star. Like, we want that celebrity. We want that person who we can look up to, and that person holds that status. And Ghazali, rahimahullah, what is he trying to do, and what is he trying to say to us here? Right? They're human beings too. Scale the way you deal with them. Meaning that people are like, oh, the celebrity sheikh culture, I really hate it, I this and that. I remember I gave a talk with one of my really good friends, Imam, he's in Manassas at Noor. And we gave this talk, we were talking about celebrity culture. What is it? Why is it a problem? What is an issue? And somebody had asked in the audience something along the lines like, oh, why do they allow themselves to become celebrities? And how come they're okay with all this attention and this and that? And I responded, I said, listen, it can become very intoxicating, right? To have these massive crowds in front of you, and you're just getting money, and so many people adore you, and people are sending you all these messages like, thank you, Sheikh, you're so amazing, like, you really... And there's nothing wrong with any of those things in and of themselves. But I said, okay, we have about 30 people here. Like, this was in the thing. And may Allah bless him and increase him. I said, if Umar Sulaiman was sitting here instead of me, what would happen in the masjid? There would be no sitting space, right? It would be standing space only. I said, so I have to ask you, community, who is the one that created the monsters? Right? It's the community. I said, the administration is only going to respond to what the community responds to. And if we're not taking time to appreciate local talent, there's no way to really do that, right? Like, you're not going to escape the culture that you think is so blameworthy. And we all talk about it, like, oh man, celebrity culture is not really good, like, we shouldn't have this, we shouldn't do this. It's like, oh, where are you going this weekend? It's like, no, I don't really want to go to that class, dude. It's like, it's not a vibe. Like, what is a vibe? A vibe is like when you have a major speaker, right? That's a vibe. And many times you can ask, okay, well, what did you walk away with? Like, what did you benefit? Oh, it was a vibe, dude. It was like really cool. It was so good. Like, what was the topic? Yeah, it was like Islam, So the solution is like, okay, I don't want to discourage anyone from going and sitting with major speakers. Obviously they became who they were and who they are because they were able to successfully present a lot of ideas. They were able to make things digestible, things approachable in a way that maybe their local speakers weren't able to, or maybe they don't have local speakers, right? Which is also a possibility. Like, go where you benefit, right? That's the important thing. Don't gauge on what you feel, gauge on what you learned, right? That's always more important. And are there spaces and places that can help you gauge when it comes to your feels and like how you feel about something? Yeah, absolutely. Those spaces that are inspirational. So what are some of those inspirational spaces? The khutbah. I'm totally fine. A khutbah is not a class, right? I'm not expecting someone to walk away with lessons. They might walk away with points of insight. They might walk away with something that they want to think about or something that they benefited from. But in general, when I go to a khutbah, like, okay, man, I want to feel good, right? I want to feel something, right? I want to feel something when I go to a khutbah. I don't want to go and be like, okay, that's a really interesting point, how we do this. And the very easy response I have to those who are like, no, it should be a lesson, blah, blah. I was like, how are you going to have a lesson when I can't ask any questions? Like, That's not what the khutbah is for. And not just that, the khutbah is an obligation. Since when did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala obligate seeking knowledge? There's not an obligation. Like, there are certain things that are important to learn, and there are certain things that are necessary, no doubt. And even if you say, okay, who said that the khutbah was that place? That's why you have classes. That's why you have students. That's why you have teachers, so that you can build a relationship with your students, so that if they do have follow-up questions, if they have issues, they can come and they can ask you. Right? That's the purpose. How many of us make meaningful relationships with our khatibs, right? Like, I really want us to think about that. And someone would be like, oh, I have a really good relationship with you, Imam Farhan. It's not because of my khutbahs, right? It's because of what happens outside of them. But if we don't understand what each maqam, each position has to offer and what is there, we're not going to truly benefit from them. And we're going to keep creating this celebrity culture, and we're only going to keep feeding into it. And like I said, I'm not here to discourage listening to anyone. Like, whoever you feel you're benefiting from, bismillah, keep listening. I'm not going to stop it. But keep in mind what it is that we're feeding into. He also dictates his relationships. So if a person doesn't fulfill his expectations, what does he do? He removes him. And it's like, man, this guy was like, he was so nice to me before. Like, it's like, no, I don't want to spend time with him anymore. I don't talk to him anymore. I don't deal with him anymore. Yeah, it's a very parasitic relationship. Right? It's a very parasitic relationship. It's only like, it's take. The offering is very little, because the only thing they have to offer is what? Knowledge. And I mean, like, even in my position, it becomes really tough. I was talking to a member of the community, and he was like, well, what are some of the challenges that you have with the masjid? I was like, honestly, I have like probably two, if I had to summarize them. He's like, what's that? I said, when you deal with like an immigrant community, the way they interact and engage with the imam is very different than how you would with like maybe like first generation. And they said, what way? I said, when they get emotional, they want somebody to match their energy. Right? Like, when they get emotional and they're like, angry or sad, like, they want the imam to kind of be reflective of that. And I was like, I'm not. Like, I'm pretty, like, I'm pretty emotionally stable. I'm not loud. Like, I always have to use a mic because people can't hear me when I speak. So I was like, I don't have that ability. Like, I can't match their emotional energy. And when they're angry, that's especially frustrating. Right? Because they kind of want to, like, keep escalating things. And I was like, the second problem I have is many of them feel like I need to be their friend. Right? Like, I have to go and I have to, like, be friends with them. And he was like, well, why is that a problem? I said, number one, friendships are organic, right? Like, you can't force friendships. And if you feel like I have to be your friend, that is something that's inorganic. And it's like, okay, so you're paying me to be your friend? You know what I'm saying? And it's not an authentic relationship. So I was like, these are like the two major issues I have no time spending time with people. I have no problem, like, you and your tea, you want to ask something. But the way I generally operate is like, people will be like, oh, Assalamu alaikum Shaykh, like, Salam, how can I help you? Right? Like, it's straight to business. What is it? What do you need from me? Right? That's generally how I operate. For some people, they just, they want a friend. And my thing is like, we have like 3,000 people here, dude. Like, what do you? I was like, I appreciate that you want to be friends with me. It's very, very kind of you. How do you know I'm like friendship material? You know what I mean? Like, how do you know I'm worthy of being the friend? Like, I don't have too many, and like even those are like very strained relationships. It's like, so it's important to get like how do we interact? How do we deal with others? How do we develop like organic relationships with them? Like, these are really important things. And not just that, like, one of the reasons Imam Ghazali, he mentions, he talks about these things a lot, even to the lay Muslim. Don't put people in fitna. Don't do that. And how do you put people in fitna? By constantly doing favors for them. Right? So if I'm constantly doing favors for someone, sometimes like like extremely wealthy, right, and they're constantly paying for you, or they're taking you places, and they're taking you on trips. If I'm poor, can I ever pay that person back? No, I can't. And then their doubt starts creeping into the relationship. It's like, man, is he paying me to be his friend? You know what I mean? Like, is he paying me to go on this trip because, like, you know what I mean? Is he kind of like, and you start questioning that. And this is why with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't allow that opportunity for his companions. When he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever he needed money for himself, we're not talking about when he did fundraising, we're not talking about when he needed it for the army, or we didn't talk about when he needed it for the governance, or when he needed to feed the poor, right? Those are all for others. When he needed money for himself, what did he used to do? Which companion did he go to? Did he go to Abdurrahman ibn Auf? Did he go to Umar, Uthman? Who did he go to? He went to the Jews. And why did he go to the Jews? Because he wanted the companions to know, like, I don't want anything from you. Like, I really have no worldly benefit that I want to take from you. He wanted to keep that relationship pure and untainted. So that's what we need to work for, to make sure, whether I'm on the receiving end or whether I'm on the giving end, I don't want to put the other person in a difficult position. I don't want to test that person. I don't want to be the one to make that person feel like a certain way or start creating expectations. So yeah, like I said, there's definitely the scholar side, and there's definitely a fall. We're falling into a XYZ, 100%. Okay, what about all the people who are feeding his ego? Right? That's a problem that's there too. And you do have people who kind of want their egos fed, right? Those people will always exist, where like they just love praise and they love people talking about them. And anything they post on Instagram, like they're getting hearts, and like like there are people out there who are always going to love that. But I think true friendship is the one that endures even critique. Like, hey, listen, I didn't appreciate when you did that. Right? Like that's true friendship. Like if I wanted to gauge and know what a friend is, it's like getting that private message, like, yo, I didn't appreciate it when you said that. I don't need to agree, but it's important because that creates that honesty in the relationship. This is the second thing. Remember, we were talking about the verses in the hadith, that it becomes very easy for the scholar to trick themselves into thinking, like, I'm doing God's work. Right there, it's not possible that I'm not close to God. It's not possible that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't love me. Right? And it becomes very self-delusional. It becomes very problematic. It becomes very tricky. In balancing that line. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he talks about the scholar, he talks about the qadi, he talks about the mujahid, and some narrations he talks about the one who gives his wealth, that these people are thrown by their faces into the hellfire. Why? Sure. Well, I mean, giving publicly is fine. Like I don't have a problem with their intention. Okay, what if I was a lawyer for the wrong intention? How come I don't get thrown face first into the hellfire? Or a plumber? Or any job? Uber driver? It doesn't matter. I'm doing it sincerely. Like, I can do it insincerely. Yes or no? Like, why these four in specific? Why did Allah choose these four? Like, okay, because your intention was wrong, I'm throwing you in hellfire. If my intention is to gain money as a lawyer, will I be punished for that? No, right? It's mubah, it's halal. Is it the best way for me to utilize my work and my intention? No, right? The best thing for me to do is actually to do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But why is it that these four specifically are a problem? Okay, the potential effect you have on others. Good. What else? Because Allah specified a reward for all these people. You don't find that with other jobs. Right? There's not other jobs where it's like, oh, if you do this job, you're going to have this reward. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for these four positions specifically, He specified a reward. That these people will have the highest position. That these people will have gates to enter paradise. That these individuals will be raised in rank in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The four are the scholar, the qari, the mujahid, and the one who gives in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's path, Allah. So these four have a very unique, special position with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in Islam, and sometimes we don't like saying this, but It's high risk, high reward. You don't have to travel that path, right? You don't have to become a scholar. You don't have to become a body. You don't have to become a mujahid, right? You don't have to become these things. Yes. What is a mujahid? Like a mujahid's like a soldier, but like a soldier of fortune. That's probably a better way of putting it, right? Because you can have a soldier of fortune who's there. He's like, okay, well, why are you fighting? Because I was drafted, right? And you have people like that, and that's fine because you're drafted. Okay, I'm going to participate in the campaign. You have people who really want to do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake. And they're like, no, I want to establish justice. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's word is superior. Okay. And then you have people who do it. It's like, I want people to call me brave. You can pray themselves. You have to pray. Otherwise, around. So, these individuals, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving a very specific reward for them, and you don't have to take that path. You don't have to do it. We can just go through our lives very safely, make our prayers, mind our business, you know what I mean? Like, learn a little bit here and there, and I can play it super safe. Now, will this, inshallah, grant entry into paradise? 100%. Will it grant those lofty positions? No. Again, high risk, high reward. And with that risk, meaning that if I do it for the wrong reasons, what's going to happen? Not just into the hellfire, face first. Why face first? Why specify that? It's the most humiliating way to get done into anything, right? Like, it's the most humiliating way to get thrown into the hellfire, by your face. Right? This is the most honored part of a person's body. And that is the part that you get thrown into the hellfire. So, he says, well, this person actually, we shouldn't call them learned. They don't deserve to be called a scholar. This person is actually ignorant. Why? They've gathered all this information. How come they're ignorant? And this is very telling because when we talk about jahl, what does that actually entail and what does that actually mean? Okay, but he's saying this person is ignorant too. This person knows. And he said, Imam Ghazali, he says that no, this person is ignorant. Why? Ignorance is of two types. What are those two types? You guys know? So the two types of ignorance is, in Arabic, what we call simple ignorance. What does that mean? I don't know something, so what do? I go and learn. And compound ignorance is when I think I know something. And I believe that's what he's talking about here. That if I have all this information and I'm not practicing it, then what benefit is that information? He's saying it's the same as being what? As ignorant. Because this one, you have the information, but you're not acting on it. This one doesn't have the information in the first place, so they can't act on it. But the result is what? The result is the same. No, 100%. But I'm saying, even the scholars, when they talk about these two types of ignorance, they say simple ignorance is easy. You can actually cure it. How do you cure it? By learning. Like compound ignorance. How do you cure it? Right? It's a huge character flaw. Meaning now you have to work on the process of healing your heart and becoming humble. Right? Now it's not an issue of information. Right? The first one was an issue of information. This is not. This is now you have to work on your character. You actually have to soften your heart. You have to develop humility. And that's why it's so difficult, and that's why it's so challenging. And he says he's going to get into, this isn't the place for it, but he said he does want to talk about the cure. And one of the cures of this is, number one, developing that awareness. You know how we talk about like different things? It's like, okay, hey, listen, there's a lot of substance abuse in the community. we need to start with A, substance abuse awareness workshop. A lot of kids are joining gangs. Okay, we need to have a gang awareness workshop, right? Like we do those things, and it's something that we practice. Well, one of the other things that we need to be aware of is, okay, arrogance. And what is this? This is an arrogance awareness workshop. But you can start, because you can start recognizing the signs in yourself. It's like, okay, do I suffer from any of these things? And maybe I'm not a scholar, right? It's like, man, but some of those signs are very clear. And even the Prophet said that, like, he said, ayat al-munafiq thalath, right? He said the signs of a munafiq, of a hypocrite, are three. Is that when they speak, they lie. If they argue, they fight. And if they're given a trust, they break it. And the Prophet said, hey, these are the things that you need to look out for. These are the things that you need to stay away from. And it's very similar. Like, these are the things, like, you start feeling these things. If you start engaging with others, and you start feeling, like, oh man, I'm deserving of this, I'm starting to get these expectations from that, and you have to catch it in the moment. And there are different strategies on how to deal with it, but the first thing is to kind of be aware of our hearts. In the moment that I'm aware of it, this is tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah has opened my heart and He's allowed me to be aware of it. But with that, he says, whoever increases in knowledge increases in grief. What does that mean? A person who has a lot of knowledge is someone who is sad. Right? The more knowledge you have, what also increases with knowledge? Responsibilities. Right? Because the more a person knows, the more responsible they become. Right? And the more dangerous their path becomes. But a person, like, if you don't know what you don't know, you're just cruising along, right? You just walk in. Right? Ignorance is bliss sometimes. Like, couldn't eat that pork sandwich? No, like the rib. What were we talking about? Pork rinds? So, and that's the thing. Like, the more we learn, the more responsible we definitely do become. So why didn't some people grow more arrogant and complacent through knowledge? He said there are two reasons. Number one, he's like, how does a person even get there? He said the first reason is, like, they weren't engaged in true knowledge. And he'll talk about what that is and what that means. And he says, second reason, what do you guys think the second reason is? He went in with the wrong reason. So, he said, because of these two, this is how this is how a person becomes corrupted. So, what does false knowledge look like? What does that mean? What does that entail? He says that true knowledge should produce fear. True knowledge should produce humility. True knowledge should actually cause a person to feel lower. Right? I think maybe a good way, it's like, it should make a person feel grounded. Right? Like, if I'm actually seeking and I'm actually learning, it should cause me, every time I engage with something, to feel more grounded. Right? And the more I learn and I feel like I'm starting to separate from people, then that should be a sign of warning. And that becomes very dangerous. And we have to start recognizing that. And he says anything that leads to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is actually knowledge. He says everything else is not knowledge. He says those are just crafts. So he said whether it be medicine or dentistry or like poetry or grammar or whatever it is, he's like, you can specialize in those things, but those things will never lead you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are not paths.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
So these crafts, as he mentions them, like, math, medicine, the different sciences that we have available, can those also lead to arrogance? 100%. And for very similar reasons, right? Like, so it's actually not very dissimilar to when we look at the scholar in like Ulum. The difference being is that if I'm studying true knowledge, right? If I'm actually studying and seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that should actually help facilitate me to become more grounded. It should actually protect me from arrogance. It should actually protect me from pride. These other crafts, there's nothing wrong in seeking them, but he calls them crafts because all they are is like a means to an end. Right? That's it. That's all they are. Right? Like medicine is a means to help cure people. Ceramics is a means to help create, different wares. Being a mechanic is a way to fix cars. Yeah. So it can help you appreciate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in different ways. But on its own, it's not going to by studying the human body, like if I become a cardiologist, right? You know what I mean? Like a shoe hiker. So it's like, man, seeing how the heart moves and pumps blood and how like the vessels work and like how blood works, blah blah. It'll help me develop a deeper appreciation for Allah, for sure. It's like, man, look how magnificent His creation is. Am I going to learn about Allah like that? It can motivate, but I'm still going to have to take that path, right? And why am I going to take that path? Because of the level of appreciation that I've garnered in that. And it could be anything, right? I could be an environmentalist, I could be a botanist, I could be, you know what I mean? Like I could be an ecologist. And I look at all these systems and I'm just like, man, this is so amazing. Like, and it just helps develop that appreciation so I can start seeking, so I can start learning. The second that he had spoken about and he had mentioned is like, if you go in with the wrong intention, and why would someone seek Islamic knowledge with the wrong intention or with a bad intention? Okay, for some people, debating, what is that going to get you? Huh? Fame. Right? The fame, right? Is there a lot of money in dawah compared to other fields? I'm sorry? It's kind of like being an influencer. I think it's a little bit, so you don't have like, you have like base level influencers. I don't know, like I don't really know the tiers. I'm sorry? You can. I don't think a majority of people have it. I don't know. Mm, sure. How's that work out for you? It's only in communist Cuba, bro. Capitalist countries, you don't have to deal with that. No, I know. Just bother you. Yeah, I'm not bothered. But in general, like the Taoist spaces, they're not one where you're going to have like a lot of money. Are there individuals like who make it out in like in the mega masjids? I don't know which way. Ivy League's mashallah. But it's more fame, right? Because the fame gives you access, it gives you power, it gives you control. Like you get a lot of gifts. So like I said, it's very much for the fame, and that's why people go into it because they enjoy being looked at, they enjoy being appreciated, and it's like a drunken state of power. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. It's almost time for salah. We'll stop here. Next week I will be traveling, inshallah, so there will be no class next week. Wallahu a'lam, sallallahu alaihi wa sallam, nabiyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Yeah. I'm sorry? Welcome. More than welcome. Whoever would like to come, more than welcome. Join. Yeah, I'm going on a hiking trip to Seattle. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes and no, right? It depends on what it is. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.